Hello, artists. Welcome back to art class with Mr. Mazer. So last week we talked about making a landscape. We talked about including those four things: foreground, middle ground, background, and a horizon line. If you remember, the horizon is where the sky meets the land. Now this week we're going to go in and fill our spaces with paint. So if you did not finish your patterns, you want to include a lot of different patterns in the ground, any of the elements, mountains, trees, middle ground, foreground, background, sun, moon, wind, whatever you included in your landscape, you want to see a lot of patterns. And to remind you, a pattern is any line or shape that repeats. So there should be multiple ones. Now, to paint, if you're at school, we're going to use watercolor paint and fill in our sections with that. I'll also show you, if you do not have watercolor paint at home, you can either color it or you can use that washable marker and water technique to create a paint-like effect. So if you're at school and painting, we're going to be using water bowls. We got our brushes, and we're going to use the watercolor paint trays. Now, to use these, we can take our brush. We always wipe. We don't want to do this because, that always splatters water. You can see some splattered there. Oops. So we don't want to splatter water all over the place. So wipe your brush gently on the edge there. Now, I'm going to paint this mountain here. I think I'll do violet since I already have a violet pattern in there. So we're going to get that watercolor paint real wet and juicy in the set. And then went over it. Now, what's cool about watercolor paint and crayon is crayons have a wax in them that will resist the water from this paint. So we will still be able to see our nice patterns. Now, it doesn't always work perfectly. So if you start painting and you can't see your pattern, dip in the water and that will make your paint lighter, and that should bring back any of your patterns. So if you drew your patterns very lightly with crayon, you may have that problem, but just use more water for lighter watercolor and that pattern should come back and be visible. So you're gonna go in, fill our sections in. Now, when I finish with my section, I want to make sure I take my brush, rinse all the purple paint off, and then I'm going to go in and use another color. So I'm going to go and paint my sky, for example. So dip in there and fill it in, and you can go ahead and go through and fill in all of your sections. Now, if you do not have watercolor paint, if you want to use the marker technique, which we did earlier in the year, you can do that. Now, so you don't ruin your markers, what I would suggest is do not color over top of the crayon because that wax is going to clog up the marker tips and they won't work as well. So you can use a little bit of marker, which I'll do here. And then, I showed you to take a wet brush, drag it over, and that should loosen the ink up. And then you could spread that out. So you could create a similar effect. Oh, I dipped in my paint there by mistake. So you can use your marker and fill that in. Or if you want to just go ahead and color it in with crayon or colored pencil, more than welcome to do that. So that is how we're going to fill in our beautiful pattern landscapes. So have fun with it, and I will see you next time.